Congratulations and felicitations.
Okay, here comes the first round.
Boom. And
Jeez, that was just
boom.
unnecessary.
You kidding me? You can't be out of range? What? Greetings and felicitations, YouTube. You're all of the Appian Way here, and I've got tier list. I know I probably just spoiled some for those of you who like to pause it and zoom in and look at it. Those are just my notes about who goes where. But yeah, let me go ahead and show you what I've just spent most of my afternoon crafting. Here it is. I've already went ahead and I pre-filled in a couple of things just in the interest of saving some time. This tier list is about heroes and which heroes you should be using in multiplayer. So yeah, I took all 31 heroes that are in the game. All 31 heroes. That means the 12 legendary heroes, the 3 fighter heroes, the 3 warlord heroes, the 3 defender heroes, the 2 archer heroes, and then the Amazon variants for the fighter, the warlord, and the archer. And I've created this tier list, and it's going to be all about which ones you should be taking in multiplayer. Let's just go, right off the bat here. We do have the champion here in the first slot. This would be just the regular Greek champion. Let me take you into the game. Hello, how do you do? Welcome back. I just bashed my elbow. Now, the reason it's here in, its normal slot is because, well, I mean, it's got okay abilities, but so-so utility. I very rarely use missile resistance buffs in this game because missiles are already underwhelming. Frenzy, you hurt yourself for a really good attack interval. It's a really good ability. I don't mind it. I also really like Cleave, but there are just better fighters out there in this game. The next one on that list is the Warlord Warmonger right here. Again, it's got a taunt, which is nice. Berserk's enemy units that can be useful. I like Sirens for this job a little bit better because you got to get really close in order to use this, and it costs 75 rage. Ares' Thunder is alright, and Pain Barrier I'm kind of so-so about. Next up on the adequate list, the Grade of C, right? So we have the Warlord Commander for both the Greek and Trojans as well as the Amazons. They're both taking up this slot again because there's nothing impressive about them. They're pretty much just kind of what you need them to be. Now then, next on the tier list after the 2 commanders is the Warlord Mentor. Standard old regular stock vanilla Warlord Mentor. It's again just kind of a so-so character. Rallying Cries is almost always useful. It's got a good cooldown on it. It's 50 seconds of rage though, and the Seize the Moment ability is also really good, and the Heraclean Roar is also pretty darn good. But again, this is just a kind of, the Warlords in general, they're kind of lackluster in melee. They got unimpressive armor, but I would say of the 3 Warlords, I actually like the Mentor more. Yeah, I like the Mentor more. Oh, the other one that's on here already, just to poke fun at, is the Defender Champion for Amazon. Here, let me show you this lady. Sorry, not Defender Champion, Fighter Champion. Looks pretty good. Has Cleave, which is a fantastic ability. It also has Aegis of Zeus. Again, I'm really meh about missile resistance. But it's very weird because if you look at the regular Fighter Champion, you'll note there's a missing ability here. The Greek and Trojan Fighter Champion gets Frenzy. Why doesn't it have Frenzy? And also weird here is, look at this. Look at the difference in stats. The Amazon Fighter Champion gets, in exchange for that, 10 more morale, 8 more melee attack, and 10 more melee defense. I mean, yeah, I suppose that's better than having that ability that I would rarely use anyway, but ultimately it's just why are you there? I don't see much value to taking the Fighter Champion, especially considering the value of the other fighters. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of the C tier here with some much more recognizable names. All right, let's get to some of the marquee characters here, and I'm going to start off with, I would think, a fairly controversial pick, but one that I'm going to stand by, and I'm going to put Hector into C tier. That's right, Hector. a lot of players really like Hector, especially when they're first taking off and first getting started into Troy multiplayer. But let me tell you why I don't like Hector of Troy. His cost, 1,880. And let's look at his abilities for this. He has Vanquish, one of my favorite abilities in the game. 15-second duration, and it gives you this speed, armor-piercing charge buff. It's great. It affects him and allies in range. It's awesome. It's a great ability. He's also got the Shout, another strong, powerful ability. He's got the Favor of Asclepius for healing himself. And actually, it can target allies in range as well. Another one of my favorite abilities. He's got the Heraclean Resolve, which makes him unbreakable and immortal, and this is a deceptive skill. If you use this, let's say you're in a duel, or you're surrounded by enemy troops, and you're in the throw of it, and it's looking like Hector's about to die. He's already down to about 20% of his health left, and you think, okay, I can't let him break, I can't let him die. I've got to activate that Heraclean Resolve, and there's no way that he'll die. And you're right. But all you've done is you've guaranteed that he is going to die in about 40 seconds. Making him unbreakable means that he will not run away and he won't get a chance to basically recover. Running away is actually a very valuable asset for your hero to have in a lot of instances. Because if your hero is losing a fight, eventually he'll break. And if he breaks, he runs away and he lives to fight another day. And the rest of the army is okay with that. But if your hero dies, all of a sudden you're taking a huge morale penalty for all of your soldiers. So an unbreakable hero isn't necessarily a good thing. Now, that being said, Achilles is on a whole different level because he's already such a hoss beast. But the trick here is that when are you going to use Heraclean Resolve? You're going to use it when you think he's about to die. And just because you click the button now doesn't mean he's not going to die a little bit later. Yes, it has its uses. Yes, it can be good in a pinch, or if there's only maybe about 40 seconds left to decide the entire battle. But those situations are few and far between. And then Divine Focus is so. It costs 2 rage per second, which is already a pretty steep cost, and he's slowing down his attack interval. I don't know. What even is his attack interval? His attack interval is 4 seconds. I think that bumps it up to like 6 seconds. I don't know. Hector, the biggest problem is his cost. And when people take Hector, they're also likely to throw him onto a reinforced melee chariot. 2240 funds. Really, you can get a hero that is better than Hector at half the cost. Just avoid Hector. Now, speaking of sons of Priam, can we also talk about Paris? Yes, Paris. Paris of Troy. Where am I putting Paris of Troy on this roster? Well, I already mentioned I was going to fill out my C tier. Well, here you go. This is it. Paris. And in fact, just to kind of prove a point about how I feel about these two heroes, I'm going to put Paris above Hector. Why did I put Paris above Hector? Paris' abilities are garbage. His skills are trash. I hate his abilities, but he's cheaper than Hector, and he has a bow. Honestly, it really boils down to that. Paris of Troy is just better than Hector. He just is. Here, hi, I'm back. There's my face. Paris costs 1690. You throw him onto a chariot. I would recommend the light archer chariot. That makes him 1990. Pretty pricey. But what you've done by putting him on the chariot is you've made him more survivable, you've given him more ammo, and you've given him a range of 210. And this is the ability that you use him for. Sharpshooter. All of the archer heroes have Sharpshooter. It ignores missile block chance. The other ability, and it's not actually written down here, is that all of the archer heroes' arrows are going to penetrate not just the shield, they're also going to penetrate multiple models in the unit they're attacking, and all you lose for it is ammo. You don't have to worry about your health of your hero, you don't have to worry about your hero taking damage. It's just your hero takes a shot, and 5, 6 I don't think I've ever seen more than six troops die in a single arrow, but it happens pretty much like that. The other thing you get by putting him on a chariot is that you won't be able to use any of his crappy abilities. Apollo's aim, terrible ability, never use it. He can't use it if he's on a chariot. Swift Heal is, I guess that's alright, that's fine, sure, but it costs 5 rage per second, which is very pricey. Snipe, again, so-so ability. 30% range actually isn't that bad. The extra accuracy is good too. When we're talking about adding damage to archers, there's really no point. You want to use the archer heroes to kill elite enemy infantry. And at that point, each arrow is already killing multiple soldiers. They don't need more damage. They at least don't feel that way whenever I play them. So damage buffs are okay, but not necessarily needed. Whereas the accuracy and range actually is pretty good. So by putting him on a chariot, you take away that you take away that Apollo's aim ability, and you keep him alive a little bit longer. But why is he still only C tier? Because he's stupid expensive. 1990, no thank you. I'll just buy somebody else for cheaper. Value plays in a big way in the structure of this tier list. Now, we have more for the C tier to put in here, okay? I feel like I've been ragging on the Trojans enough here, but I've got another Trojan to rag on. Actually, he's not really a Trojan, he's just on their side, and that is Sarpedon. Sarpedon's okay, he's adequate. Honestly, everybody in the C tier is adequate, and what makes Sarpedon adequate is, let me tell you. Sarpedon's price, 1660, really good. What else is really good? His abilities. Seize the Moment is a fantastic buff. Debuff. It's minus 25% armor and minus 50% melee defense. You throw that down and you can flip a battle for those 40 seconds. Hallowed Ground, also really good ability. Sarpedon has some of the best morale abilities in this game with Hallowed Ground, as well as False Portent, minus 25 morale for the enemy. And then he also has a Rallying Cry. You throw down Hallowed Ground and a Rallying Cry into the same area. That's really nice. The problem is, you're not going to have the rage to do it, because the rage for Rallying Cry costs 50, the rage for Hallowed Ground costs 75. So you're more likely to just extend the morale buffs over a period of time than necessarily having a huge stack of them all at once. And then as well, that False Portent really good, but so is Taunt. So Sarpedon's got a really impressive array of abilities. 1660 isn't a bad cost for a legendary hero, but again, you're actually going to find better from Sarpedon's roster in the non-legendary picks. Now, don't you worry, we are also going to get a Greek in the C tier, a Greek legendary hero. The Lord of Memes himself, Agamemnon. Yeah, Agamemnon is just kind of a so-so character for me. I've never really been too terribly impressed by him. He's very similar to Sarpedon in this regard, and he's expensive. 1700. You have several chariot options, but right now both the Skirmisher Chariot and the Light Skirmisher Chariot are bugged, and it makes it so that you can't actually use Agamemnon's melee attacks. And he has a really good melee power, especially when you throw him on this melee chariot. Again, you're talking 2050. That's really, really expensive. And that ability is right here, Blood Sacrifice. That's it for the C tier. Let's get back into the list. So, rounding out the C tier, we've got the champion, the warmonger, both of the commanders, and the mentor. Paris and Hector, both just adequate. Sarpedon and Agamemnon. Now, as you can see here, I already have the Amazon champion in my D tier, but you know who else belongs in the D tier? Well, let me show you. That tier is solid ground for our next hero, the Fighter Ravager, for both Amazons and Greeks. Fighter Ravager has one really solid ability, which is Terrify. I like it a lot. It's great, but Blood Sacrifice, again, it can be very useful. And it's the Ares Rage that I don't like. And frankly, there are better fighter options out there. I almost never take the fighter Ravager, so I tend to avoid these characters. But that's not to say other people might not get better use out of them. Okay, I think they have potential, but I'm honest when I say that I think I just have to put them in D tier. Also destined for D tier, the Defender Veteran. Defender Veterans are, again, an okay unit. There's, not too much to say about them, frankly. The Defender Veteran is an okay unit. But its traits are just not useful to you. Heraclean Resolve, again, I think that's a trap. Pain Barrier, 75 rage cost for 20% damage resistance is okay. Dread of Ares for missile vulnerability. I'm not bringing my heroes to buff my archers almost ever. The morale and stamina loss is nice, but frankly, there are much better options for defenders, and that is why this Defender Veteran gets a D. Honestly, this would probably be an F tier for me if it wasn't for two other really, really stinkers. And the reason why I say that is because as I build these tier lists, I always do them on a curve, all right? I'm not just going to put everybody in F and everybody in A. No, I want it well-rounded, so you're going to see a curve in this. The Defender Veteran does not fail only by virtue of two real absolute stinkers. Next up on our lovely list here, the Amazon Warmonger. Yes, the Warmonger. The Amazon Warmonger. What makes the Amazon Warmonger different from the Greek and Trojan Warmonger? Well, it's this ability right here, the Embrace of Ares. The Amazons get the Embrace of Ares. The Greeks and Trojans get Pain Barrier. Pain Barrier, 20% damage resistance for 45 seconds. The Amazon Warmonger gets 20 seconds for herself and allies in range, 30% missile parry, and 15% weapon damage. Weapon damage is nice, but the 30% missile parry, I don't care. Again, I'm not bringing heroes because I'm worried about my enemy's archers. And that missile parry doesn't matter if I'm dealing with an archer hero anyway. So frankly, I'm just underwhelmed with the Warlord Warmongers in both cases. Well, that's it for C and D, but let's go ahead and look at those that have a little bit more going for them. We're going to look at our B tier and then our A tier. So for B tier, I'm actually going to put in several at once here. First of all, I'm going to put in both of the Tricksters. The Amazon Trickster, the Greek and Trojan Trickster, and there's a third Trickster I can put in here, really, and I will, and that is the one and only Odysseus. All three Archer Tricksters get to the B tier. And why am I putting the Archer Tricksters into B tier? They're actually a really good character. They're cheap, especially the non-Odysseus variants. They have triple shot, which fires like a volley of arrows in an area. It does area of effect damage with its shots. It's got this cheat Hades ability here for speed, melee defense, damage resistance. The problem is that these abilities are all locked to being dismounted, and you're almost always going to want to make sure that your archer heroes can be on a mount in order to protect them. So for the two regular archer tricksters, they're okay. Again, they're killing a lot of infantry. The strafe is buggy, I would say. It's deceptive. The sharpshooter means it's already dealing area attack damage, just rather than it being a circle, it's in a straight line of area damage. But the triple shot is also good if there's a lot of clustered enemies together. And then cheat Hades for speed buff, damage resistance, and melee defense. That's great if you're in a panic. But I would frankly much rather just take the Archer Skirmisher, which has abilities that you can use while they are mounted. The Archer Trickster for Amazons, by the way, will never be dismounted if you put it on a horse, which is actually kind of a perk and makes it a little bit better than the Greek and Trojan Archer Trickster. Now, as for Odysseus, I never put Odysseus on a chariot. Never. Because he has even more abilities that you can only use while dismounted, and he's already expensive. Why make him cost more than 2,000 when you can just have him on foot, have a larger health pool, Now, I know that seems deceptive because if you put him on a chariot, it's clearly he gains 2,710 health. But when he gets knocked off of that chariot, he's lost 4,500 health. So he's actually 2,000 health points lower once he gets off the chariot. And it's at that point that he really comes into his own, off the chariot. Flight of Artemis, he can use both mounted and dismounted, which is useful. But in Hades' Shadow, makes him stalk, which means he's invisible to the enemy except at close range, and it gives him snipe so that he can shoot while being completely hidden. This actually come in painfully useful for me in certain scenarios, especially in FFAs, where all of a sudden my enemies are like, oh wow, I don't see Odysseus anymore, he must be dead, and he's standing out there in the middle of the battlefield with nobody around him, racking up more and more and more kills, because guess what, he also has sharpshooter. He's got strafe, he's got cheat Hades, he's got triple shot. This is actually the fastest hero on foot because of all of these abilities. 42 speed, but with a huge list of buffs for speed, really does actually make him the fastest hero. Back to the tier list. Let's go ahead and fill out the rest of the B tier with a couple of Amazon heroes. This one I'm really looking forward to talking about, and that is the Amazon Mentor hero. Amazon Mentor is a fantastic hero pick for one primary reason, and that's Truce. Truce minus 50% melee attack, plus 30% melee defense in a large area of the battlefield for no rage cost. Am I reading this right? Yeah, there's no rage cost for it. It's just something that you can only use it about once every 2 minutes, okay? 90 seconds to wait for the cooldown, 30 seconds of it being in use, so it's on a rotation, right? But what makes Truce so good is that when you combine this with chariots or heavy cavalry, and you're dealing your damage by charge and by the movement, you don't really need the melee attack. And your opponents do get the benefit of the melee defense, but you can also combo it with Seize the Moment. Minus 50% melee defense, minus 25% weapon damage for a singular enemy, so maybe there's somebody in that Truce area that you particularly hate. And then also it has a really good ability in Rallying Cry. Throw this woman on a melee chariot, 1,400 funds, ain't bad. That's for the cost of a Daughters of Ares, and she's doing a little bit more work than they can do too. And that Truce ability is just, it's chef's kiss good when it comes to how you use your chariots. There's another Amazon hero I want to put on this list, and that hero is the Amazon Vanquisher. Now, this is the first time I put a fighter Vanquisher on the list. I like the fighter Vanquishers because they have dueling abilities. Fighter Vanquishers are a go-to for me if I can't get my hands on an archer skirmisher most of the time. A very good, reliable choice. But what makes them B tier instead of A tier is that they have Song of Battle. I actually don't like Song of Battle very much. And what they're missing is what's in their name. The Greek fighter Vanquishers, they get Vanquish, which is just so good. Charge bonus and speed buff. I love Vanquish, and it buffs everybody else in the nearby area as well. So on that note, I'm actually going to go ahead and put in our Greek Vanquishers as well onto our tier list. Guess what? They're our first A tier entry here. Fighter Vanquisher. Reliable. Lovely. Fantastic unit. And has Vanquish. It has its namesake. Back to the B tier. Let's go ahead and get in a couple of defenders. So the Amazons don't have any defenders. The only Greeks and Trojans do. And the two defenders I want to put in here are the Defender Companion and the Defender Protector. Defender Companion, Defender Protector. Let's talk about the Companion first. I love taking the Defender Companion if my only intent is to bring him on his melee chariot. I'll put him on his melee chariot, put him right there next to a pair of heavy chariots to escort him, like, say, reinforced chariots, and you throw down Hallowed Ground, you get this morale and melee defense buff and missile resistance buff. Again, missile resistance, who cares? But you also gain Favor of Asclepius. You can heal the chariots that you're with using this hero. And it's just, you don't see enough people taking them, frankly. I don't take him to fight with spear and shield on foot. I take him to go with my chariots and keep those chariots alive a little bit longer. And it's already very difficult to deal with a player that's using his chariots well. And this just means that, honestly, you could pretty much put it on lock at that point with a defender companion. Defender protector, this one I always bring on foot. Divine challenge. Lovely ability, means you can lock an enemy hero into a fight and kill them, but also right before you put on that divine challenge, you also want to throw down your fortify and your movable, you throw down your fortify. Now this does cost 4 rage per second, but you're not going anywhere anyway. You gain a 20-point armor buff, and he's really, really strong. And then you can also use, when you feel like it, a movable force for yourself or allies in range to give a 25 armor buff at minus 60 speed. It's actually just really useful. But all three of these abilities, very good. Divine Challenge puts it over the top. If you can grab an archer hero on foot, this is a great way to deal with them. And if you use the abilities right, you can actually even beat a fighter Vanquisher in a Divine Challenge. So I really like the Defender Protector. Divine Challenge is a fantastic skill, and it plays a huge role into where a lot of these heroes go. I have one more character to put into B tier, by the way, and guess what? He also has Divine Challenge, and that is Menelaus. Menelaus is alright. I like Menelaus. There's a problem with Menelaus, and that's his cost, 1620. He has great abilities, one of them being Divine Challenge with a minus 20 armor debuff for his enemy, if he's the one who calls the challenge. Shield Wall for missile resistance, whatever. Threads of Fate, minus 20 more armor. I'm sorry, this is for himself. I don't really like Threads of Fate too much because he's losing 20 armor, but he's gaining melee attack and weapon damage. He's saying, I don't care what happens to me, I'm just going to kill you. If you throw down a Threads of Fate and then a Divine Challenge, both characters lose 20 armor, but Menelaus is going to be hitting a little bit harder. And then last but not least, he also has Dread of Ares, which targets a single enemy unit for minus 15 morale, minus 25% melee attack, minus 15% stamina. This makes him actually pretty useful in a one-on-one fight. I'm sorry, not a one-on-one fight, in a one versus infantry fight, whereas his Divine Challenge makes him good on a one-on-one fight. So he's got options. He has options. I would always take him on foot. I would not put him on a chariot. He's expensive, but there's better options out there, which is why he is only in B tier. So let's go to A tier now. Now A tier has 4 more slots available to it for what I have here. And we've already got the Fighter Vanquisher up here. But let's go ahead and put in some named characters, okay? Let's start with Hippolyta. Hippolyta is A tier. I actually really like Hippolyta. I like her a lot. I think she's a very, very powerful character in this game, and it boils down to one thing, and no, not just one thing. There's actually several things about her I really like. First of all, archer hero. So she has that sharpshooter ability, and she's fantastic for killing infantry. She's also the most mobile of the archer heroes by putting her onto an archer warhorse. She also gains 210 range when she's on that archer warhorse. Only costs 1650. And on top of that is buffing her chariots with a truce. You could take some Amazon champions to escort her, or just to go after the infantry, throw down a truce, and then the Amazon champions, which are a very affordable heavy chariot, are having a field day with the infantry. On top of that, she also has Flights of Artemis for 20% speed boost that works while she's on her horse. She has Ares Thunder to take away 20% armor and 30% melee defense. She has Apollo's Aim, but we don't talk about Apollo's Aim. But guess what? You don't ever have to worry about Apollo's Aim if you put her on a horse, which if you're not, you're just crazy. So you won't have to use Apollo's Aim ever. And then she can also buff other archers or skirmishers nearby. I hardly ever take any, but frankly, Huntresses I bring for the Fear Javelins. Might as well make their javelins a little bit more accurate and a little bit more deadly with Deadly Focus. Also, morale buff. So it doesn't have to be used on a skirmishing character nearby. 1650, I think, is very, very affordable for a mounted hero. Like, let's just compare real quick. 1620 is the cost of Menelaus on foot. Hippolyta, 1650 on a horse with a speed of 100. She's pretty much untouchable. I even had a battle the other day where I was fighting Hippolyta. I got Hippolyta cornered into the trees by infantry and a hero, and I was like, I've got you now. And no, she just kind of slipped out of there and kept shooting me because she has the mass of a horse. Hippolyta is fantastic. Another fantastic character, also deserving of A-tier accolades. Man, I don't know which one to pick first. They're all so good. But I'm gonna go with named characters. Let's go for our divine challenge bros. Achilles. That's right, Achilles A tier, not S tier. Why am I not putting him in S tier? Because he's unbreakable. And there's a good chance he's going to die in combat before he'll run away, because he will never run away. But also, before I go back to the game menu to show you about this Divine Challenge character, let me tell you about the other Divine Challenge character I'm putting in A tier, and that is the one and only. You love him, you love to hate him, you love seeing him in battles. John Cena. I mean Aeneas. Yes, Aeneas I'm putting in A tier as well. Now let's talk about both of these characters. Now, there are two flavors of Achilles that you can bring, but there's no difference between the two of them other than just, what the helmet looks like. So you can take whichever one you like. It doesn't really matter. Achilles is expensive. He's stupid expensive. He's really good. He's a fantastic warrior. He's got great armor-piercing damage. He'll win any duel against another hero. He really will. He's that good. He might not beat Hector. Sometimes Hector wins. But at his cost, he's just absurd. And you see a lot of people put him on a chariot. Never put a Divine Challenge hero on a chariot, because all you're doing is you're hurting your health pool for when you can use the Divine Challenge. Might as well be in a very, very healthy spot before you start using that Divine Challenge. The Unbreakable is useful, yes, but it's also a liability. He's got other fantastic abilities. He's got Terrify, which I love, minus 15% melee defense added into it. He's also got Cleave for more armor-piercing damage. Ares' Rage makes him unbreakable. I don't like that. And Blood of Heracles is also really good for a 50% melee attack, and it adds rage to him. And this is also an ability that Aeneas has. But you'll notice a huge difference between Aeneas and Achilles, and that difference is 300 points. 300-point difference, and you get another Divine Challenge hero who's really good. He will win Divine Challenge battles against most other heroes. I would rate him as being on the same skill level as probably Menelaus, or better than Menelaus in those Divine Challenges. But you'll also note here that Aeneas actually has more base damage potential than Achilles does. He also has Divine Regeneration. He heals 6 hit points per second with each use of this ability, and you can use it twice for no rage cost. It's just a cooldown timer to activate it. On top of Aristea, which also provides healing, 25 heal points healed per second. You can throw down a divine. Let's say you've just finished your Divine Challenge. You're down to 2,000 health on Aeneas, and there's still a lot of infantry for you to fight. Fighting infantry is a liability for heroes, but you know what you can do? You can throw down your Divine Regeneration. If it's ready, activate your Aristea, which also resets your cooldown for Divine Regeneration, and then activate Divine Regeneration again just a minute later. That's actually a lot of healing, and you can bring Aeneas back into a fight from next to nothing. Also, March of Hermes for extra speed and stamina. He is the most likely to bounce back from a Divine Challenge than anybody else in the game. The Shout is a great morale buff with weapon damage and melee attack. It costs 75 rage, so you're probably only going to use it once. And the Blood of Heracles, also a fantastic ability that I was just talking about with Achilles. But still, both of them are not quite yet there to make it to the S tier. I'm going to go ahead and hint at that S tier with my last A tier entry. And that last A tier entry, the Archer Skirmisher from the Greek side as well as the Trojan side. A lot of you are probably expecting to see this in the S tier, but no. This is A tier. And the only reason why is because there are actually two heroes better than it. I would have put this in S tier right from the get-go, if not for a couple of things. Let's talk about the praises and sing the praises that I have for the Archer Skirmisher. Centaur Drill and a Chariot. That's it. That's it. 1450. We're done. Pack it up, bag them and tag them. You've just killed off an entire 2 whole units of Myrmidons. Easily. 60 ammo. He'll never be caught. 205 range. It doesn't matter what his missile damage is because he's just going to kill them all. And the arrows are already an area of attack weapon. You can position him with his mobility right on the flanks of the enemy troops and just mow down their infantry. And remember, melee infantry, and especially like heavy melee infantry, is king in this game. And there's nothing better suited to killing it than an Archer Skirmisher. Which is what is going to bring me now to my first S tier selection. And that is the Archer Skirmisher from the Amazon side. The Amazon Archer Skirmisher is, hands down, the best hero in the game. 1350 funds, which is cheaper than the Archer Skirmisher from the Greek and Trojan side. It will never be dismounted, which means she will forever have her 100 mobility. She will forever have her 210 range, which is better than the Archer Skirmisher on the Light Archer Chariot. Well, you could go... No, wait, that's worse. Yeah, absolutely. And it's cheaper. And she also has the Centaur Drill, reload skill, firewall, moving, so-so ability. Inspired Aim, if you're shooting at another hero, which is something that the Archer Skirmisher hero also has. And he also has Apollo's Rain, as does she. Actually, did I look at that right? Hold on, just make sure. Yeah, Apollo's Rain, Centaur Drill, Inspired Aim. Yep. The Archer Skirmisher for the Amazon side has one different ability, which is Deadly Focus. It's a morale buff for allies in range. That also includes an accuracy buff. We saw this on Hippolyta as well. It's just more useful to me than the Archer Skirmisher's Centaur Drill. That's all it really boils down to, is that I just don't find too much use out of the Centaur Drill because they're already firing while moving for the most part. It's just strange how that ability interacts with the fact that they're mounted and their arch of fire is no longer a cone but a circle. It just seems kind of superfluous, and you don't have to worry about it anyway because she'll never be dismounted. Best hero in the game. So I put in at A tier the Archer Skirmisher. Now I put in the S tier the Amazon Archer Skirmisher. But before I go to the last S tier hero, let's go to the bottom of the list, the bottom of the tongue heap, and let's talk about somebody that I love very dearly, and that is Penthesilea. I just realized you can barely see her there. There you go. Penthesilea. She's just a disappointment. I mean, I could show you her, I guess. You can see how enthused I am about this. 1680 funds. You can put her on her horse for 1860 if you want her to be bad and expensive. Song of Battle is okay, but it lowers her melee defense. Embrace of Ares is just good, and Ares Thunder is also just good, but notwithstanding just makes her uncontrollable. And she just loses. That's really all it boils down to. She just loses her fights. Why spend more money for her when you can pick up an Archer Skirmisher, a Fighter Vanquisher, Warlord Mentor? It's just, no. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry, Leia. I love you a lot, but you're just not any good. Now then, that of course means that there's only 2 characters left in this entire tier list, and I'd like to thank you for staying with me this long. And I would like to ask you to please subscribe if you want more content like this in the future. I don't intend to do too many super long tier lists like this again, but I do have updated thoughts about other stuff I've told you that are now kind of outdated. But now let's get to bottom barrel, worst character in the game, bottom tier character. Here it is, the most disappointing character I've ever seen. Ajax the Great. In multiplayer, I'm so frustrated with him. Basically, he's a defender protector, I think. Or yeah, is that right? He's got Divine Challenge, which normally means I like them a lot, but frankly, his boulders are just so disappointing. They finally give you a multiplayer battles hero with boulder throwing, and it's when you compare it to the Cyclops, he's throwing pebbles compared to the Cyclops Volkswagens. It's so upsetting, and for whatever reason, his boulders never hit where you want them to. And honestly, I'll be frank, he's probably better than the Amazon Warmonger, the D tier options here. He probably deserves much better than this, but he's just such a big disappointment. I wanted so much for Ajax the Great, but because he's just meh, and because he's expensive. Oh my goodness! Here, let me show you this. Because he's rocking this, 1720 cost. I just don't like him. Pulverize is good. He's got a taunt. He also has that Heraclean resolve, and Divine Challenge is also really nice. He's got a decent health pool. He's got 40 armor, but this Heraclean throw is so bad. And I wanted more for him. If you're playing as Salamis, just bring his brother. Bring Teucer. Bring the Archer Skirmisher hero. Just don't do this. Don't do this. Now, it's funny. My last character to put onto this tier list is also from the same DLC. That's right, there's only one hero left to put in here, and that's Diomedes, and he's going S tier. I love Diomedes. He's S tier for a very, very solid reason, and that's because I like him better than Aeneas and Achilles and Hippolyta. I like him better than the Archer Skirmisher and the Fighter Vanquisher. He does really good in Divine Challenges, even though he doesn't have Divine Challenge. He's just all around a very good character. He is expensive though, 1780. But what you get for that 1780, man oh man, he's got Cleave. Love this ability. He's also got Pulverize, which is a huge buff. He's also got Zeus's Wrath, which is a huge debuff. If you can activate Zeus's Wrath on an area that you also have Pulverize on him activated on, man, he's just going to go to town on whatever is there. You could also throw in some Cleave for extra damage and even more melee attack. Like, is 70 melee attack not good enough for you? Here, have 90. It's absurd. Rallying Cry, a fantastic ability. And on top of that, Might of Athena, which gives him 300% Aristea points. And in some one-on-one battles, your heroes might not even get to the point where they get to use their Aristea. Let's face it, he apparently doesn't know the meaning of foreplay. He just goes straight to the get-go. He reaches that climax as soon as he can. But he's young, okay? We were all young once. 30% melee attack, 300% Aristea points. Whew. Man, Diomedes. Can't say enough about him. And frankly, one of the reasons he's up here is because when you compare him to the rest of the heroes on his roster, the Fighter Vanquisher, the Defender, Protector, and Companion, the Warlord Mentor, he does the job of all of them. He really does. He really does. Diomedes will beat Achilles in one-on-one duels. He will beat Hector in one-on-one duels. He will oftentimes also get 86'd himself by Achilles, but it's possible. And that's it. That's the whole list. Holy cow. Guys, my throat is dry, but there it is. There is your tier list. And like I said, I promised I'd put it on a curve, but there it is for you. Best hero in the game, by and far, is the Amazon Archer Skirmisher. The worst hero in the game is, by and far, Penthesilea. And there you have it. Where did I get it wrong? Tell me. Yell at me. Make me realize how bad I was. Just, you know, be gentle. Nah, you can shoot me out and I can take it. I'm an Aeneas kind of guy. I could take anything and just bounce back from it. But yeah, no, thank you so much for sticking around. I love doing this stuff. I love making this content. Ta-ta. I love you all. I'll see you guys in the next video. Do leave a comment. Leave me with your thoughts. But if you have negative criticism, maybe also subscribe. Balance it out. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.